Uh, so again, I'd like to welcome everyone to this inaugural Social Work Reparations Day. It's not only a day, but it's also a campaign, a call to action. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, share the screen. Where are you? So we are gathered today to do a few things. Is to remember and honor our ancestor, Leonard Dunstan. This was a man who gave his life to our people, to our struggle. And anytime he entered the room with such a calm and such a focused presence that anyone around him benefited from his heart, from his passion. And because of that, it's very easy to see why he became a social worker. And the campaign is being uh, projected through a Ghanaian word, Bo mi na, me, moi, miowa. Help me and let me help you. So you're seeing this symbol that is representative of that sentiment. This is a 2026 social work advocacy 40 acres and a mule reparations call to action campaign. It's a campaign stretching from March 28th today to June the 12th. And certainly you would ask, why is that so? We've chosen those dates. One is because Dr. Nikki Jones out of University of Kentucky held a social work reparations event on March 28th, 2024. It just so happened in that same year, it was Nkechi Tiafa who invited myself, uh, Leonard Dunstan, and then the chair of the National Association of Black Social Workers, Melissa Harley, and had a discussion on reparations and social work. So we see the two ends of the campaign, remembering and inviting you to go back and actually look at those panel discussions. But also let us remember that March 25th is United Nations Day to remember the victims of, it used to be called the transatlantic slave trade. Now it's better represented in the trafficking of enslaved Africans and the establishment of chattel slavery. And that is what Nkechi Tiafa spoke about earlier today for those of you who did not attend the appeal program. And because of this, we feel that our theme should be repair, restore, and reimagine social work and the global movement for Black reparations. So we say join social workers, scholars, students, and the community members for a national virtual campaign focused on education, dialogue, and advocacy for reparations for people of African descent. The 2026 Social Work Advocacy 40 Acres and a Mule Reparations Call to Action campaign invites social workers. And we say that it's rooted in the profession's ethical commitment to social justice and human rights. The campaign highlights the role social workers can and must, in fact, play in advancing reparatory policies, community healing, and structural transformation. The campaign honors ancestor Leonard G. Dunstan, a social worker, former president of the National Association of Black Social Workers, and former board member of NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. Ancestor Dunstan's life and leadership represent the powerful role social workers can and must play in advancing reparations and justice. And we'll put in the chat a short biography of his life. But what I want to do now, as customary done, is to pour libation. For those of you who may not know what that is or haven't participated in it before, it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, forms of spiritual acknowledgement and of reconnecting oneself to the cycle of life. And after I say something, and then I'm going to invite you to say something, we usually say Ashe. And Ashe is like, uh, it is so. So usually when we do libations, we have a plant, which I do have here. And I'm going to ask the elder for permission to start. Mama Ajwa, permission to start.
Yes, you have permission.
Thank you so much. To the Creator, to whom all praises are due, we acknowledge you for this life, for bringing creation into existence and allow us to be here and to benefit all of the beauty, the treasures, the wonder of life that you've made available to us. Not only here on this planet, but in the universe. And to the Creator we say, Ashe. To those ancestors who were first to manifest in what some say is Akabalon, others say Africa. Whatever name that we chose to name that landmass, we know that those who identify as Africans were the first manifestation of the Homo sapien. And to those early genitors, we say Ashe and say thank you. And as they traveled throughout the landmass and through climate and through epigenetics, came the other so-called races, only one race, and that's the African race. But through the manifestations of their genetic mutations, other forms of humans came into existence. So therefore, all the landmass throughout the world, as J.A. Rogers has taught us, all those places, the first humans there were melanated persons. That's in China, that's in Japan, that's in South America. That is even here in what we call the United States. So all those first progenitors in all the places in which the humans traveled, we say Ashe.
Ashe.
To those early nation builders, Mesopotamia, Nubia, Kemet, Zimbabwe, all those civilization builders, we say thank you and say Ashe.
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 And even those empires, such as the Ghana Empire, such as the Mali Empire, and all the learning that was done at the University of Sankore at Timbuktu, thank you, thank you, thank you. We say to you, thank you, and I say Ashe.
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 And to
Ashe.
those Africans who happen to be not so much in the wrong place at the wrong time, but to be victims of short-sightedness and participated in the capture of the brother who maybe they didn't consider a brother, but felt in order to save themselves from that which these foreigners came to our land, starting with the Portuguese and snatching our people up. And as we became victims of a system created for, by others, against our own best interests, we want to say to you in the spirit world, we look back at that and know that you were just as much a victim as those who were captured and transported. We say, Ashe.
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 Those who were clear, like Queen Nzinga, who fought the Portuguese for over 30 years and winning every single battle. And when they refused to give her a seat at the table in the negotiations, we know that her soldiers got on the floor on their hands and knees and they made a seat for her because they were not going to allow her to be humiliated and have her stand as the others were sitting. To those African warriors and to Queen Nzinga, we say Ashe.
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 To all those Africans who were kidnapped, those who fought against their capture and died in defense of their mother, their father, their sister, their cousin, their village, all those who resisted in Africa against this horrendous human rights violation, we want to acknowledge you and say Ashe.
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 To those that made it to the shores and still were fighting and died on the shores, not going onto the ship because they knew whatever was going to happen next wasn't something that they were going to uh, capitulate or consent to. And through their fierce fighting, they were murdered prior to getting on those boats. We say to them, Ashe.
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 To those who were held, even raped in these dungeons, bearing children thereafter, are placed on the boat, but still having a love for themselves and for their land and for the Creator, and fought against the enslavers, we say Ashe to them.
Ashe.
Those who jumped overboard or pushed overboard, and so much so that it changed the trajectory of the sharks' normal swimming pattern because they knew they could get a meal off of the remains of our captured Africans. And we acknowledge them today and say Ashe.
Ashe.
To those who landed in the Caribbean, certainly Brazil, the largest assembly of African people in the Western Hemisphere, only second to Nigeria. But those who are scattered throughout the so-called Caribbean islands, we acknowledge you and we say Ashe.
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 And to those indigenous people like the Arawak, who folded us into their civilization and fought side by side, we want to thank them and say Ashe.
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 Caribs, and to those Africans who,
Ashe.
through all the hell that they went through, they had the idea that we would be here today. They knew if they didn't endure, that our continuation would not have been a reality of time and space. And all the hell that they have endured, we want to say thank you and say Ashe.
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 And now
Ashe.
we want to invite you to call in your ancestors so they can be with us today. Call out their names, please.
Artist Emery Burrow.
Ashe,
Dan Savage.
Ashe,
Thomas Lawman. Thomas Lawman.
Ashe,
Martin Lawman.
Ashe,
Eugene
Thomas Oliver,
Lawman.
Ashe, Greta Oliver, Ashe,
Miriam
Eugene Lawman.
Savage.
Ashe,
Conrad and Jeanette.
Ashe,
John Jack Fike and Louisa Meadows Fike.
Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe.
And let us
Thomas
remember
Lawman.
Ashe, and let us remember those Africans who knew that this day would come, and they had to place their stamp on history at their time, like Callie House, Ashe,
That's right.
Ashe.
Queen Mother Moore,
Ashe.
Ashe,
Ashe.
Ashe.
Imari Oba Obadeli, Ashe.
Yes,
Ashe.
Ashe. Marcus Garvey.
Ashe.
Ashe.
H. Rap
Ashe.
Brown.
Ashe.
Ashe. Frederick
Dorothy
Douglass.
Lewis.
Ashe.
Ashe. Irving
Gabriel,
Davis.
Ashe.
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 Gabrielle and Nat Turner.
Hmm.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
And remember the bold action of the brother from Snake, whose name escapes
Kwame
me right
Ture.
now. Torre, but the brother who went in Riverside Church.
Oh, you talking about
Muhammad.
James
James Foreman.
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 James Foreman, Ashe. Yes, El Hajj
George
Malik
Jackson.
Shabazz.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Shokwe Lumumba.
Ah, Ashe,
Ashe.
Chuckwe Lamumba, Ashe.
Asata Shakur.
Asata Shakur. Ahmed Obafemi.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ella Baker.
Ella Baker.
Queen
Ashe.
Mother Moore.
Mafunde Lake.
Ah,
Yes, Ashe.
George Jackson.
yes.
That's it, George Jackson.
Ashe. All those whose names we haven't called, all those unborn who are yet to come, you say Ashe, Ashe,
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe Bo.
Mama Mashariki,
Ashe.
last female co-chair of Nkoba. I want to
Hmm.
thank everyone for that, to bringing our ancestors, first affirming our tradition and bringing our ancestors in the room. Today is a day in which we are setting down another plank in the reparations movement, such that on every March the 28th from this year forward will be celebrated as Social Work Reparations Day, a day to bring ourselves together, galvanize, and do an appraisal of where the struggle began, where we are now, and where we are going. And there is really no other person who can do that better than our guest keynote speaker, Mama Elder Adjoa Ayataro. The civil rights lawyer, she's known by many, received the AB degree from Clark University in 1967, 2 years later, graduating from George Warren Brown School of Social Work with a master's in social work. 1978, she graduated cum laude from St. Louis University School of Law and was admitted to the Missouri Bar that year. After obtaining her law degree, she served as staff attorney with the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice from 1978 to 1982, and then as an attorney with the National Prison Project of the American Civil Liberties Union Foundation, 1982 to 1993. As director of the National Conference of Black Lawyers from 1993 to 1997, she intensified its advocacy and efforts and strengthened the organization's fiscal position, and indeed bringing them into the as a founding organization, a member of the National Coalition for Blacks for Reparations in America. Her legal activism with NCBL has been included in such work criminal justice issues, environmental justice issues, and certainly even statehood for DC residents. Her work in the reparations movement is compared to none. No one can really do what this woman has done in terms of her history as a student, as an activist, as a scholar, as a professor, creating curriculums on reparations, bringing other young lawyers into the reparations movement and launching their careers. It was, in fact, Adjoa Artello who was the spokesperson for many of us at the United Nations World Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa. where slavery was declared a crime against humanity. The amount of lobbying and talking to heads of state of different delegations and giving presentations, tirelessly, she was walking around the grounds. And what happens when the UN takes a space, it for that moment, it's not that country's space. It actually is United Nations space. But she was walking all around, meeting people, certainly representing us well. She also represented the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the United for Racial Justice, Truth, Reparations, Restoration, and Reconciliation. I could really go on and on and on and on, but then I would be depriving you of the time that she could spend with us. And I want to remind you, it was Adjua who became a social worker first, where she served as a supervisor for the Malcolm Bliss Community Mental Health Center, Model Cities outpatient program. So it's this social worker who has laid a path that all of us must follow, social worker or not. And it's because of these and so many other things that we have invited her to be the keynote speaker at this inaugural Social Work Reparations Day, to be celebrated every March 28th from this point forward. So many articles that she's written. I'll mention a few. Historic and Modern Social Movements for Reparations, the National Coalition for Reparations in America and its antecedents. She's a historian, not only an academic and a professor, but she's a historian. Can we talk? How triggers for unconscious racism strengthens the importance of dialogue. And certainly let us not forget the reality of obtaining reparations, present-day harms as vestiges of enslavement, state of the race, creating our 21st century. Where do we go from here? I will end by saying, yes, she has a chapter in Ray Winbush's book, Should America Pay? Slavery and the Raging Debate Over Reparations. But one thing I found out, and I couldn't pull up the article, in her writings, she has the building of an ashram, heart to heart. I have to get that article from her because I definitely want to read that. So people, please put your hands together and welcome our keynote speaker, Mama Adjua Ayochego. Please put your hands together.
Yay, if you cannot hear us.
Yay, Bo, yay, Bo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're biased, but that's okay. I accept your bias, Onaji Muid. And thank you everyone for being here. I want to give some structure to the time because Onaji just said talk as long as you want. And people who know me know I can talk a lot, but I'd prefer having some dialogue. And so I'm going to kind of give you what Onaji asked me to give you, which was my background and how it's connected to reparations, and some of the work that I've done with others. And Kichi Taifa and I have been, I guess, what's that saying? We've been tied at the hip since we first met. I came into reparations by walking back to the Department of Justice one day on Pennsylvania Avenue, and there was a sign for ANRO, the African National Reparations Organization, that had the traditional figure of Uncle Sam pointing out, saying, Black folks, Uncle Sam owes you so many trillions of dollars. I don't know how many it was. And that was in the early 80s. And my gut response, it was a gut heart response, was yes. And somehow I can't remember exactly how I got connected with Nkechi before I met her and worked with her at the National Prison Project, but I became involved then with the RNA and others. I didn't that were working on reparations from then. So I was a lawyer at that time at the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. So I want to share with you my path as it connects with reparations, because I really think uh, that in doing the work many of us do, I don't know what everyone here does, but what many of us do as social workers as well as movement lawyers, uh, 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 is that we are actually addressing day in and day out what we call the vestiges of slavery. So reparations or is a remedy for, repair for injuries caused to a people based on their group identity. Not, not that it's not bad that somebody gets injured because of their individual personhood. But what we're talking about when we say reparations in the reparations movement is injuries caused to people based on their group identity. And the group identity we're talking about for Black folk is the identity of being a Black person of African descent. And we talk about reparations for slavery and vestiges of slavery. Uh, we probably, in fact, when you start with enslavement, uh, I haven't really had this discussion, and I don't know if Nkechi has had it with anyone, but we really are talking about prior to even being put on the ships, forced to go on the ships. But that's a discussion for another day. I just think that's something we should, that the enslavement did not occur just on the ship traveling here. It occurred on the land of African land. So if we're talking about reparations as repair for injuries that result from enslavement and the vestiges of slavery, then as I look at the work, at least that I've done, and I know others have done, both as lawyers as well as social workers, much of that work, as I said, is connected to the injuries that people have suffered because of their group identity, Black people of African descent. So when I first, when I first became a lawyer, maybe this is really I hadn't thought about starting or not starting. I've already started, but I became a lawyer because my tools as a social worker were so limited. I worked in the Model Cities program, as Onaji said. I first started off as a social worker in the Malcolm Bliss Mental Health Hospital. That was before the Model Cities program was created. I was working on the floor for children, adolescent, as well as the younger children floors. There was two floors, and I did, you know, traditional social history, talking with parents, having group meetings with parents, having group meetings, individual meetings with some of the patients. Uh, what I guess would be termed a traditional mental health social worker working within the confines of a mental health institution, community mental health center. The in I forget the year that the Model Cities program was created through President Johnson, targeting and putting money into doing things like providing services in the community, uh, hiring people in the community to provide services to be, was it, uh, uh, not paralegals, but assisting in on the community basis with programming. And in our situation, Malcolm Bliss provided services to 5 model city communities in St. Louis. I was in St. Louis at that time. And so we hired some lay people, community people who had no real training. Many of them had a high school degree or diploma. So they had no professional training as social workers or mental health workers, but nor did they have any, uh, most of them did not have any higher education other than high school. And they worked with the community people, bringing them into programming, talking with us and sharing with us as a team kinds of programming that they thought would be beneficial in these centers. These centers were in the community, in the 5 communities. And in those centers, of course, doctors saw, we had the psychiatrists came and they saw people who needed to be seen by psychiatrists. The link for me to our discussion, as I considered it, was I decided every time I turned around, the problems that I was seeing that people were facing, housing problems, uh, problems in terms of obtaining the services they needed, not enough money to provide for their families, scraping together, money to do basic things like provide sufficient nutrition, uh, to provide for supplemental things like for their children. Even the basic things. I mean, sometimes we think of supplemental, but those are just basic things. If their child was going to be involved in activities, being able to provide that, being able to deal with not just the mental health issues that arose in their family, maybe in their family, but dealing with basic social deprivation, basic inequality. I dealt with other than one of the 5 communities, all of the other communities, the other 4 were, I would say, if not 100% Black, close to it. Uh, the one community that was mixed and was probably predominantly white. Um, so, but even in that community, I kept having to uh, I was not constantly, but often having to refer people for legal services, that this isn't right. You're having to deal with things that you shouldn't have to deal with. This looks like discrimination to me, or this looks like, is there a program that exists that you can get involved in? So constantly referring out to either lawyers or other kind of services. So I remember talking one day with the director, a psychiatrist was a director, Dr. Calvin, and we became good friends. And I just said, I'm not, I need more. I need more skill set to help. I'm always referring people out. I mean, my skills aren't enough, and our mental health program isn't enough to address the fundamental issues that many, if not all, of our clients and people in our communities and the model city communities are having to deal with day to day. That to me were, if not creating the mental health problems, were exacerbating them, right? We're exacerbating them. And we talked, and first thought was, maybe I'll go to medical school. Well, that didn't pan out. I mean, I didn't even, I went and talked to a couple of people and all that, but I would have had to go back and do all kinds of science and all of that. And before I could even apply, or before I could even have a sense that I could get in. And science wasn't my greatest suit in high school nor college. So then, as we talked, his son was in law school, I think, at the time or whatever. And so we started talking about law. And I said, well, that's probably even better because I'm always referring people out. I'm referring people not to doctors. We got the doctors here. I'm referring people to for other kind of support system services, and a lot of it was legal services. So that's what got me to decide to go to law school, which I did, graduated, you've heard, you know, all of that. And my first job was with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. I had, and it was in what they called the special litigation section that dealt with the rights of the institutionalized. And I had wanted to do more mental health, but the caseload for that section was really highly prisons and jails. Again, being confronted with, just as I was in the community on mental health, being confronted with going into those prisons. I don't know how many of you have gone in and toured prisons, but it was like gut-wrenching painful to go into these prisons, seeing these men be, and because we did primarily male prisons, uh, uh, and the sea of black faces, the sea of black and brown faces. And in some places it was primarily black, other places, if you're in Arizona, it's primarily brown, that kind of thing. But seeing the color, the faces of those who are locked up, and beginning to learn more and more through my work with prisons, more and more about the racial disparities, more and more about the targeting, I call it, and others call it, uh, 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 of black people in community and black and people of color, and black people are the biggest targets, were and still are. Um, So all of that work, if I can just kind of like show you look at the work both in the community mental health model cities, and then looking at the criminal punishment system, which is where Nkechi and I worked together at the ACLU National Prison Project. I left the Department of Justice uh, 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 and went to the ACLU National Prison Project, and Nkechi sometime later joined that project, and we worked together. She says I was her legal mentor, and she, of course, was my reparations mentor. We connected in that way, and it is connected. And so, for me, I don't want to I don't want to come across as judgmental, but for me, if we're looking at the work of what social workers do and the work of, I want to say activist social workers, I'm thinking of Leonard. I would call Leonard a down and dirty, show enough, you know, social worker really getting at the grit and the gut of the issues of people. And he was very, of course, everyone knows he was very much a race man, very much a race man. So some don't have to be race people to see this pattern, though. I'm not trying to say you can't see it. You can see the pattern, whether you serve, excuse me, an all black community population, whether you are, or whether you have a diverse population that you serve. You can see, at least I saw, the differential differences in the structures that many black people have to face, that even poor whites, they have. And I don't want to minimize poverty at all. I don't want to come across as minimizing poverty, but the structures that are laid on top of that poverty for black people are tremendous. I'm gonna take a second. I need to go get some water. I should have had some with me.
As she's getting water, I'd like to say that we are witnessing the life of African women who is continuing the tradition. I'm particularly speaking about Callie House. I'm speaking about Queen Mother Moore, and Sister Mama Ajwa is continuing that tradition. And to be here with her today is truly an honor and a great joy. I will also mention that
Oh,
was in
not you breaking up
Kichitiapa.
my speech.
It was also in Kichitiapa who actually invited me to join in Cobra. And I'm hoping that Mama Aja will speak about the work we did at Howard University, the litigation committee. Hopefully she'll include that in the work as well. And then the fact it was Mama Aja who invited me to my participation was at a low in terms of Cobra. She invited me to come back, in fact, be a co-founder of the Health Commission. So I can't tell you just how joyful I am to have them both here today. And Nkechi, and you're going to say a few words, so don't even think you're going to be here and not say something. So when we open up the space, I'm going to invite you. So welcome back, Mama Ajua.
Um, I forgot where I was. So I want to focus. I know this is till 4 o'clock, and so I'd like to open it up around 3 for us to see what the dialogue might be, if that's okay, Onaji. And then hopefully
Indeed.
maybe Nkechi can share some points during that time. But for me, the work of social work is grounded in addressing any of the various forms. I was mental health, somebody else is health. I have my dear friend who just passed, was involved as a social worker at Barnes Hospital, and then out of that, I can tell that side story about how we at the NABSW conference, and I came to DC in 78, must have been 77. We circled Barnes Hospital. They had started resegregating the hospital. I was born in Barnes Hospital on the segregating. My blacks were segregated on the second floor. They resegregated it, saying they were putting the Medicaid patients on the second floor. Well, that's disproportionate black folk, from that standpoint. And so out of the NABSW was very much involved. The local chapter had been really doing a lot of work around that, and you know, well, doing all kinds of picketing and stuff and demonstrations. And the conference came, the Black social workers, and I don't know how many of you know St. Louis, but that Barnes Hospital, Jewish Hospital, combo. I mean, that's at least what, 3, 4 blocks, at least, and we circled it. That was how many social workers were there and how many of us were out there demonstrating. So the connection, I guess I wanna say that everybody doesn't have to be a reparationist. And I'm not trying to say everybody should be. Well, maybe I am, but everybody doesn't have to be. Just like there are activism areas that we can argue around peace, around environment, around any number of things, police brutality, uh, uh, anything. And everybody isn't going to connect in that way, to be out there doing whatever, writing articles or whatever. So, or demonstrating or, whatever. So I'm not saying everybody in social work should be a reparationist. I do say that it is important, if you're really going to give quality service to the group that you have decided is your target population at whatever point, and there are any numbers. I started naming some, but you have to understand that connection. You have to understand what, in fact, what are some of the sources of, you could call it injury, malfunction, whatever language you want to use for that group of people that you're working with. And if you're talking about, and I would dare say that you should do this whether it's black or brown or whatever, because you do need to know if there have been any form of oppression towards their group, not them, just them, but their group. It's important to know if you're dealing with an indigenous person, the genocide that was committed against the indigenous people in this country. It is important to know that the reservations were not, things that, oh gosh, now we're being put on reservations. Whoopee, that was another layer of oppression. So just like it's important to know those things about that group, other things about Latino, Latinx, and of course, Black people. So we're talking about reparations for people of African descent. So how would that help us in our work as social workers to know that and to begin to look through a lens of it. To me, when my eyes were open, and I wasn't tied to reparations in that point, but when I kept saying, I'm going in here and I'm supposed to be helping people do group activities and group therapy and do some individual therapy and support the doctor, giving these medications and helping whatever. But people are still coming up against these awful barriers to having a full life, and barriers that are social constructed, you know, not innate within them, but because of their group identity, you know, that they can't get other housing other than the housing they have because people are denying people that look like me housing. They can't get into various programs, or they all kinds of things, and that contribute to, if as I said, may not cause but contribute to their sense of health, ill health, mental health. So for me, that helps me say, in addition, and I'm not saying we don't take away the individual services, but in addition to that, how do we use our skills and our interests and our knowledge to support building a society that doesn't put those barriers there or that takes them down? And part of it for Black people, a big part of it for Black people, is reparations, is recognizing it. And I want to say it this way, uh, recognizing that an injury was done to people of African descent. And I think that's too small a word, but right now my brain's not going to stretch to a bigger, but it's a major injuries were done to Black people of African descent from that period of enslavement, being stolen from Africa, forced to come to, in this instance, we're talking about the United States. They went other places as well. How do we, and I know Onaji and Fatima and others in the Health Commission in COBRA are working on this. How do we address, number one, identify the injuries? And COBRA says there are 5 injury areas. And how do we address those? How do we repair those? Those repairs, most of them have to come through a combination of us identifying them, saying, okay, we know that we need to address these various injury areas within our community, the injury areas being, Lord help me, I always forget one, but I'll try: criminal punishment, education, health, including mental health, peoplehood, nationhood. Uh, which one did I forget, Onaji?
You say criminal justice,
Yeah.
criminal punishment?
Wealth and poverty.
Okay, I didn't say wealth and poverty. I thought I did. Okay, great. Thanks, Fatima. So to me, and in COBRA as well, and other people, there's like we focus out on who caused the injury, who are the responsible parties. Uh, that's why we have, if you look at the reparations movement, there are any number of approaches. We've started with and continue with the federal government. The federal government legalized our enslavement. Then when that was ended, legalized Jim Crow, and continues in many ways to support, enhance the injuries that are the vestiges of slavery. We have people like Deidre Farmer Pellman, and who looked at private industry, private corporations. She sued insurance companies that insured enslaved people. We have current and more currently, we have people who are focusing on, and Nkechi did a lot of work in this area with Evanston, focusing on state and local reparations, looking at the state governments that had laws and policies and practices that disadvantage Black people. So we know Evanston. We have the continual fight around Tulsa. We got the Black mayor in Tulsa that recently was just, I think it was last year, there was a Black mayor was elected, and or year before, and now there is a fund. There's some question as to whether it's really as much as needs to be, but we're not here to dissect that. So we know that their their injuries, there are targets for reparations, are not the targets, but the people who are organizations or institutions or governments that should pay reparations are those that have policies and practices that significantly disadvantaged Black people of African descent because of their group identity. You know, uh, I was doing an article some years ago, and I found a research piece done by a Black attorney, law professor, and she had done a study in New York and on employment, and the study found that Black men with the college education were less likely to get certain jobs than white men who had no college education and also had a kind of colorful background. Uh, so that's injury caused to Black folk because of their group identity. You know, it wasn't personal to any one person, even though, of course, I don't get the job. It's personal. It's because of our group identity. There's studies that talk about and show that people with African names uh, are less likely to get jobs or get positions than people who don't. And so we have all kinds of studies. So this is not when we talk about the vestiges of slavery, we aren't talking about in a made up stuff. We're not talking about and I'll talk about a study I did at the school. It just came up in my brain to say, we're not talking about anecdotal. You see, we're not saying, oh, well, it looks to me like. No, these are studies that were done using the correct research procedures, scientific procedures, that found these disparities that that showed that the significant difference wasn't anything but race. And so that's, to me, that's why we can't just say, oops, we're not going to deal with it. We're just going to deal with the fact that this person has been denied a job. We're not going to deal with the fact that this person's been denied a job and that the history in this community or in this employer or this is such that it makes me suspect, is there something else going on, right? So my I guess my grounding, since this is the first, I'm not just doing the first, my grounding for us in our work is to be able to see where what's happening with your clients in this instance, who were Black, we're talking about Black clients, how are the issues and the problems that you are addressing with them, are they or how are they not connected to the harm done by state, local, and federal governments and private industries to Black people of African descent, because of their group identity? That's not an ending place for us, of course not, but it would help us to me, it would help us be able to articulate how we can best support our clients. I found, and I want to end on 2 points. I found when I was working both as a social worker, but also more so as a lawyer slash social worker, because I didn't leave social work. I carried social work with me into the work I did as a lawyer, criminal punishment system and all of that. But it helped me be able to talk to my clients in a way that could put a I want to say a understanding of what their circumstances were that's beyond this argument of self-responsibility, you know, uh, that I'm not saying we don't address self-responsibility, but the container for many of our clients includes and is actually the container of it is societal harms, societal uh, uh, dysfunctions forced within their community, within African communities, African descended communities. We can do this with other groups as well. And I say that because I'll tell you my personal bias. My personal bias is that I don't think that we should be so focused always on just us, that we don't see that just us may be also inclusive of or related to or similar to what's happened to other, and primarily groups of color. And I already mentioned indigenous people and Latinx. So because that keeps us from being arrogant. We don't want to be arrogant. We want to be resolvers. We want to be solution finders. And for me, I said this years ago, I think when Cobra had a conference, not think, I know, in South Carolina, and we went to some of the plantations and the uh, housing on the plantations for where Black people were housed. And for me, we have a responsibility. To me, I'm not saying this is me. This is Audra speaking. This is not something that is coming from any place else, even though I'm involved in Cobra, active in Cobra, involved in National Conference of Black Lawyers Act. We have a responsibility to not only our ancestors who Onaji called up and who are here with us now, to our people today, and for those who are coming, to lift up that our people suffered a horrific, horrific crime and were injured by a horrific, horrific crime. Crime against humanity. Frederick Douglass lifted that up and was ignored. Not ignored, but it didn't go many, many years past that. But he said slavery was a crime against humanity. We just had the resolution passed in the UN that says slavery is a crime against humanity. At the World Council Against Racism, and I put this out on the NCOBRA listserv, they ducked it. And they ducked it. They said slavery was a crime against humanity. and always should have been so. So they ducked the historic crime. They ducked the African enslavement, the trafficking in Africans. They ducked it. Now, some people read the Declaration and then they tell you about it. They make it sound as if the Declaration said that included the trafficking in Africans, but it didn't. They ducked it. But the resolution that was passed, a couple of days ago, a few days ago, was it on the 25th? That resolution was clear. So, and it passed. Significant number passed. They had a bunch of abstentions. I think 60 some abstentions. I'm not quite around that. And there are 3 that voted against it. United States, Israel, and what was that? Well, another country.
Argentina.
Argentina. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So that's a major, major victory. And I don't see how and again, I'm trying to make sure I'm not being judgmental. If we are going to actually, as social workers and work with Black people, we have to figure out how to take that reparations into our way of addressing the injuries, institutional injuries, and injuries caused to Black people of African descent. And like I said, and I'll stop here, it also will help you with other groups, because then you can start saying, well, was this group ever treated in a way that may have caused structural barriers? Because we still have them today for us. We know that. And I would dare say indigenous people and Latinos would say that they have barriers that are part of that structural creation. So I think maybe in closing, I think it makes us better social workers to embrace and look at all the things that may be impacting our client group. And at the same time, not make excuses. It's sort of like being able to develop ways in which to address it that doesn't disempower your client group, if that makes sense. But it also empowers us as social workers, and it empowers your client group for those who choose to go beyond just the understanding of it, learning about it, and actually become active, involved in some way in the reparations movement. But by bringing this, as Onaji is doing, into social work, in a BSW, I would assume, and all that, then it at least provides another voice to support reparations and another reason, a rationale for it. It helps build that group of people who can assist in writing and articulating injuries that were caused by the awful crimes against humanity and the injuries that are ongoing. And it helps us pull together groups of people who can talk about what form reparations should take. Because I said I was going to shut up, I am in a minute, but because Dorothy Benton Lewis and others, we said Dorothy Benton Lewis is one of the co-founders of NCOBRA, as well as she at one point was a co-chair. But she said reparations is more than a check. If all we get is a check, we have not been prepared. Reparations means structural changes, means changes in policies and practices, and it means probably a whole bunch of other stuff. So what you as social workers, if MABSW, and MABSW has been involved in reparations, let's be clear now, this is not new. But if MABSW and social workers become really involved and look at and help us analyze what repairs this, what are the things that need to happen within our society in order to get that repair? What policies, practices, institutions do we need to create or support that may be already created? So the role to me of social workers is not just personal to their work individually with whatever client base, but it is actually if for those who want to and can, it would be getting involved in assisting in defining what the repairs are. What are the injuries even? I mean, we got those 5 injury areas, but within that, there are many other machinations, I guess you could say, of that. So that's my view of the connection, and that's my view of how important it is for social workers to have an understanding of reparations, and also those who will to help us build our develop our arguments for reparations. So thank you very much. I was going to tell you
No,
about a
thank you.
program I did, but I ain't going to tell you now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mama Audra. I have a few questions before I open it up to the floor. And the first one is, um, you didn't tell us about your early, like elementary, high school, like who were you in high school? Who were you in elementary school? Who were you in high school? What made you want to be a social worker in the first place?
I told you what made me want to be. No, I didn't tell you what made me want to be a social worker. Well, I didn't speak about all that because I wasn't sure. To me, that's not germane to the topic. But I can, I guess maybe I would. I'll just say this, that I come from a family that is community oriented, and so that family base, my great grandmother was an enslaved woman, but then she went to Lincoln. That was all Black in I think Jefferson City, Missouri. She and my great grandfather was a printer. Uh and my great grandmother did a lot of civic work. She was a co-founder of Annie Malone's Children's Home, Phyllis Whitley Y, those kinds of things. My cousin told me a few years ago, I didn't know this, that she was with a group that developed tennis courts in South St. Louis for Black people because there were none, we couldn't play tennis on the white tennis courts. My mother was involved in the Urban League, was, you know, various things. So very, very much a community-oriented family and support. So I think
Mm.
that's really what was my foundation.
So your lawyer career started at the kitchen table.
Not that I'm about the lawyer, but
The social
thinking
work.
about doing for others and supporting your community. I mean, we were very involved in the church. Daddy was an assistant superintendent of the Sunday school, and Daddy also was very much involved in our block. Remember the block groups, block clubs, or whatever they call them. That people meet and they go clean up the neighborhood, and yeah, Daddy was very much involved in that. I remember one night. This probably well, I don't even know the man's name, so I can't even say he wouldn't want me to tell you because I don't remember. But somebody banging on our door late at night, and Daddy went down there and Mr. Burrow, Mr. Burrow. There was some argument down the street between two folk, and I think they was drunk, but they wanted Daddy to come down and solve the argument, resolve the dispute. Of course, he didn't, but it's just to show you the respect that he had that in the neighborhood. So that was,
And your father's name?
artist. My middle
Mhm.
name. When I changed my name, I kept artist.
Okay. And your mother's name?
Marie, Carrie
Mm.
Marie Brabham, and my daddy's name was artist Nathaniel.
I know people want to ask you this question. One other question is, in international law, reparations is looked at in at least four or five areas. One is restitution, another is compensation, another is satisfaction and non-repeating of the harms, and certainly rehabilitation. You are in a unique position to not only being a social worker, but being a lawyer. What things would you say needs to be a part of the rehabilitation aspect of, of reparations?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it in that way. There are 5 areas in international law that reparations takes those 5 forms. Uh, but I'm not sure I can just give you right off the top of my head because I haven't thought about it in a while. I did and Keisha and I both provided testimony to the individually, not together, testimony at the California task force several years ago, and I provided them a written document that talked about those 5 areas as forms of reparation. But I can't, off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I don't.
Not a problem, not a problem. Uh, I do want to, I don't know what Nkichi's time is, so Fatima, I do see your hand up, but I want Nkichi to say
Well, can you
something.
do something for me first, though, please?
Yes.
Can we see if anyone has any questions of me
Yes,
before we do that?
Fatima has her hand up, but I wanted Nkichi, since you've been a tag team. I just wanted her to say a few things. I don't know what time, if how long she can stay, but I wanted her to make some comment to this to your remarks, and I wanted to remind the audience, for those who did not hear this, the campaign is from March the 28th to June the 12th. And the reason the June 12th date is being used is because that's the date that Nkichi had convened a discussion between myself, Barbara Lennon Dunstan, and then Melissa Haley, who was the president of the National Association of Black Social Workers. So I wanted Nkichi to say whatever she would like to at this point, and then I'm definitely going to go to Dr. Fatima Hafiz. Nkichi?
Yeah, no, I just want to say I'm just listening with pleasure to my mentor in the law, Adjua artist Ayatoro. I guess the only thing I would say is that you never know how fate put things together. And as I mentioned in my memoir, Black Power, Black Lawyer, I had really wanted a job. I hear an echo, but I had really wanted a job at the Public Defender Service for the District of Columbia. And I was so very devastated when they didn't hire me. But the person that did hire me, Al Bronstein at the National Prison Project, if I had gotten that job at Public Defender Service, I might not ever have met Adjua Ayatoro. And so much has happened as a result of our knowing each other, our relationship, that you really kind of wonder if one thread unravels, what impact does that have on everything else? You know what I mean? She might not have gotten to know about the new African independence movement and what we were doing in reparations, even though she already had that view of, yes, reparations, Uncle Sam owes you, etc., etc. If I had not met her, I might not have been as open to making sure that Cobra was inclusive of everybody, that it really led to taking it out of the Black nationalist corner and bringing it more into the mainstream. So that's all I really want to say. Thank you, Ajua. And I don't know if our forward was still on the line, but my memoir tells about that story in there, about how we met and what a tremendous difference just that meeting, because I did not get that other job, has had on what's going on now, the whole movement. So that's all I want to say. Thank you, Ajua. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Papa Jay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Nkichi. I'd like to, Fatima, if you can come on screen, that would be appreciated if you can. but Fatima had her hand up for a while, actually. Dr. Fatima Hafiz?
So I am on screen. Uh, Mama Ajua, I love when Akichi, her energy is so powerful in terms of talking about fate. We never know, like we can't see what a situation is going to place us from the universe is placing us. But Mama Ajua, I really appreciated your talk. And I'm saying that I appreciate your talk because one of the things you said about reparationists and social workers and how every social worker or every person who is doing work around reparative justice may not be a reparationist. However, their work is actually what Nkechi just said. We don't know how those things are integrating. We don't know the DNA that's being created in relationship to that. And so, yeah, we would like everybody to believe that reparations is what we need, but some people may not, and they have their assignment in relationship to the reparative justice for Black people. And so I really appreciate you just saying that, laying that out. It's so important. And the other thing is you began to talk about the federal government, the insurance and banking, state government and local governments. Like that for me is really important to understand what each of those institutions and systems did. Like what was their role in the enslavement of African people? Because if we can identify that, then we know who's in what wheelhouse and how to pull on people in those wheelhouses to share. Because at the assembly, I joined the education for public education around it. And so having those kinds of understandings about the institutions and what those institutions, what was their input in terms of enslavement? What was their input in terms of what's happening? So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, like which institutions, because you mentioned federal government, and my computer went out, insurance and banking and state government. So and then the last thing I want to say that the harm areas, say for the Health Commission, yes, there are those harm areas, but we too, even through the Year to Heal, had not quite wrapped our head around what does it mean to heal and what is the pathway to getting us to this place of yes, we do need to heal. Yes, we do need to know that reparations is not just money, but how do we begin to? And I think that conversations like this help us to think. It gives us substance to think about in terms of what healing can look like. So I just want to tell you, it stimulated me in terms of what you're saying, because I'm very interested in the structural reality, how things have been structured to keep us in this place. So I guess I have a question or I don't have a question, but I just want to let you know that you brought some real clarity to this idea of what it is that we are looking to do here.
Mhm. I think one of the things that, and I was weaving it in a little bit in my talk, is there's already a bunch of quite a few articles and such that identify the injuries done to Black people by states, by federal government, local governments. There are also commissions now that are even pulling that more out into the public eye. There's Fulton County, Georgia has a commission that has a significant report, but there are commissions. I don't want to try and start naming them because I won't name them and I'll sidetrack us. But those are ways to find out, look at if you're in an area that you want to find out about uh, the ways in which, for example, the state government uh, mistreated, was biased towards, Black folk. There are probably articles written already about it. If there's a commission, there's some kind of report. And there may also be a report from some other investigative body. So those are the kinds of that, I think just doing some basic research, which I'm not trying to say is easy, you would probably uncover. The same with businesses. I mean, Deidre Farmer Pellman looked at the fact that, I'm blanking on the insurance company's name, that they insured enslaved Africans to the benefit of the slaveholder. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not to the benefit of their
Right.
family or anything, it's to the
Right.
benefit of the slaveholder. And so she did that research and others. So I think, the records are there in many instances. It's just finding them. And I think that's important to be able to document.
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about the chapters across the country, like what is happening in their particular region or their particular place that they take on, maybe some research around their state or around, I'm just thinking streaming consciousness around what you're stimulating here as it relates to the Health Commission and what is it that we need to be focused on and how do we get more focused as a health commission. It's not I want to say it's not separate, but there are things that each of the commissions do that add to the DNA of it all.
I would just say maybe to take it a little bit out of in Cobra, and you're right, I'm not disagreeing
Mhm.
with that, but I would want those on in this session, to look at how would you or could you incorporate some knowledge of what's happened in your wherever? I mean, some work for the state, some work for, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And what role did they play? For example, when we and in when we in the NABSW chapter in St. Louis found out about the policy, and we found it out because my girlfriend now who just passed was a social worker in the hospital, and she told us.
Mm.
They were trying to make it secret. She told us, and so, and she was like our inside person, and we tried to protect her. They eventually found out she was the one telling us, uh, but so it seems to me that those who are interested, and again, I don't, you can't force interest, and it
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're not a supporter of Black people if you don't really get into the reparations movement. I'm not going there. I think that marginalizes us too much. But those who are interested can look at what role their institution has played, either in support of or in continuing the injuries caused by bias within the institution. Some institutions you may find were fighters against prejudice or against those things, and some were not. Some built it. Some institutions, only in the recent 20, 30 years became open to Black folk. Those are things
Mhm.
to know.
Yes.
I mean, if you're interested.
Yes. Yes.
There's a
Mhm.
question in the chat.
Yeah, I like Deborah Small. She wrote a paragraph.
Yeah, I read a paragraph. I just wanted to, I have another question about my name change I was looking at. Deborah, you're right. I read both Derek Bell and some of Lonnie's work. Uh, there also it's an old book, How Slavery Built Capitalism. I forget the name of the author. It's an old book. I think it's I want to say
Eric,
Eric Williams.
Eric Williams from the
Oh, okay,
Trinidad.
I was right, Eric Williams. So, and that really lays out a good background for that. Uh, so the guy about my name, uh, I changed my name. I can only speak for me. And I think changing your name to me is really a personal decision. Some people, to me, aside from all the other layers that it may be, I think it's a personal decision. I felt I wasn't the name my parents had given me. That wasn't who I was. And I wanted a name that reflected more who I felt I was and feel I am. I kept, as I said, with Onaji, I did keep my father's name. My mother, they gave me my middle name was always my father's name. Um, and then I met when I was working at Malcolm Bliss. There was an African guy from Ghana who worked there, and we were talking. So he gave me the name, and it's Ajua Asantewa Artist Ayatoro. And now he didn't give Ayatoro. I kept my last name was Burrow, and it's because I was now see this. My girlfriend told me, she said, "To thy own self be true." I was trying to pacify my parents. I figured if I kept my last name, and of course I must keep it my daddy's name because I was a daddy's girl anyway, that they wouldn't be upset. Child, don't ever do that. Mm, mm, mm. Don't ever do that. Child, they flipped all the way out. But anyway, that's why I did it though. That's my decision was to do it. And so Asante was after, and he said, don't let someone just say Asante was have to be Nana Asante. That's so great. Uh, Soldier, a leader in Ghana, a woman who defied the British, led the Africans against the British. Then Ajua's female born on money. It's different names. So see Ajua here, Ajowa. I spell mine Adjoa. There are others that spell it Adjua. So any number of spellings. Female born on money. Uh, I learned that the root of Ajua, I don't know if you know this, Ajua, the root of Ajua is when the fruit is at its sweetest.
No. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
read where Adu also means someone who brings calm and peace, someone who wants a society, will fight for a society of social cohesion. Yeah, I'm kind of paraphrasing.
Mm.
Adwa, you're not just an organization member, which you have been, but you really are a nation builder. You are a movement strategist. Ella Baker said, "I'm not here to build an organization. I'm here to build a movement." And that's what you are. You have built a movement. There's no movement that we can talk about in substantial ways that you haven't been a part of in some kind of way. Share with us your thinking along this higher level of thinking and organizing movements, not just a movement, but different movements. But share with us how you evolved in those different echelons, if you will.
Well, I guess first of all, I have to tell you that my view is different than yours because I don't view it as I. I so let's use in Cobra as an example. And I was working with and involved in engagement. I can't remember all the details of how my memory ain't as great as some people's, but working with like the RNA and others, and we then came together and decided and that this actually was in the chapter that you talked about in Ray Winbush's book. That's actually the history of Cobra, and I learned that we all kept saying, "Well, Mario Belli," but we found out that it was Dorothy Benton Lewis that went to Imari and said, would you call together people from all over who are supporting reparations to form an organization that later became Incoba? She felt, and this is again the overlay of bias, overlay of discriminatory treatment. She felt that if she issued the call, people would not come because she was a woman. And Imari had enough recognition, support, acknowledgement in the Black community, at least, that they would come, she felt. And they did. And Imari agreed. So we came, you see, at least for me, my life, and I dare say it might be the same for most of our lives. It's sort of like what Nkichi talked about. It's like, not getting the job, then coming to the ACLU and she and I getting together. And it's not an I, it's a collective. I'm not sure how to say that, but I don't do anything. I cannot build a movement. I can't do that. It's we. It's we who build institutions. It's we, and various of us play different roles at different times, you know. Uh, and some people, like, I can look at some people that were there at the very beginning, and other than the ones that are no longer here, period, and embodied, you know, people left, they moved, that kind of thing. So I think it's getting connecting with people who have a similar kind of, yeah, we do need to do something like that. Yeah, we do need to form an organization that focuses. Yeah, we do. And Keisha used to get upset with me, but I try and change my language a little bit. But what we talked about in Inco when we first formed it is to take it out of, but it's not take it out of, it's to expand reparations beyond the nationalist,
The nationalist community.
national spirit.
Got it. Got
It's
it.
to take it, and we did. We had Dorothy was a Delta, the Deltas. We had Janita was another sorority, and we went to NAACP where Ben was the head at that time, uh, uh, and Chavis, and we got, we had reparations Ray out of Detroit. He was, he was like a staunch, and he was on the board, I think, or very active in the NAACP, and we had other, and so all of these things kind of came together because people, and so we did it. We did it, and so, and Keisha and I were talking, and I was talking in Cobra a year or two ago with the now co-chair Watella. We met it wasn't a mission. It was not our mission to move it into the broader community. Our mission in Cobra has always been to obtain reparations.
Mm.
But that sub goal, that way of stepping, how are we going to do that? Well, one way of doing it is we have to make it a household word. We have to not make it something that's only talked about among nationalists and maybe leftists or, a few people. We have to make it something that is a common discussion. We did it,
Mm.
but it was a we
Mm.
that did it. It was a we. People were started writing articles and scholarly articles and writing op-ed pieces and, those kinds of things. So we can look at now. I can't remember where in Keach and I were not too long ago, and we just looked around. It's amazing. It's amazing. But that's where we have to give that credit to that group of people that had that vision and that
Mm.
worked to realize that vision. And all of a sudden, and it wasn't all of a sudden, but in a way, time goes fast. Some of us sitting here with all this gray hair, we can talk about it. Some of the young ones don't know yet how fast it goes. But you look back and you say, well, daggone. I don't want to cuss on it. I probably already cussed and didn't realize it. But so, and so that's to me the glory of it. We are not, and I say this, I know people may get upset. We are not in control of whether we get reparations. We are in control of whether we fight for them, whether we
Mm.
demand them, whether we argue
Mm.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Got it.
that's what we're in control of. And we have
Got it.
gotten some on different levels.
Mm-hmm. Baba Omawali, how well did you know Leonard Dunstan? Baba Omawali?
Oh, he might be away from his
He
screen.
might have stepped away. Mama Rosalind had left the meeting, the gathering, which I truly feel terrible about.
Who?
But Mama Ajaba, we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for your life, for your contribution, for your writing, all of you that you bring to not just our people, but to the world. So today, as we declare March the 28th, the inaugural Social Work Reparations Day, we also want to present this award to you. It's the Leonard G. Dunstan Reparations Lifetime Award, presented to social worker Adjua Altello at the inaugural Social Work Advocacy 40 Acres in the Mule Reparation Day, March 28th, 2026, from Incobra's Health Commission and Social Workers for Reparations.
Thank you very much. Can you back
Mama,
it up a little bit? I can hardly. Okay. Oh, thank you. I can see it now. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
so this is what we know. We know that if the information was correct on the web, it says that your favorite color is red. It said that your favorite ice cream is Thai. It said that
The
your
favorite
favorite
ice cream is what?
it's Thai, Thai. I don't, that's
That's my
Thai ice
favorite
cream.
food. It's Thai.
Oh,
That's food. Thai
okay.
food. I like Thai food.
Okay, ice. Okay, got it. Favorite time of the year. It said it's spring.
Yeah, because I'm born in the spring.
And it says that your favorite vacation spot is the Caribbean.
Well, it was. I kind of
It
like
was.
France.
Well, we wish that we could send you there, but all we can do is wish you well wishes as you approach your 80th birthday a few days from now on April the 1st. We want to say happy birthday in advance.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Mm,
Happy
Uh,
birthday.
Thank
happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now you mailing that to me, right? You're not going to just keep that on your desk.
Wow, happy birthday. Wow, 80, unbelievable.
Yeah, I got to see when I'm almost like hesitant to put it in the mail. You know what I mean? I'm really just hesitant because we want it to be safe and unbroken and so forth and so on. But it will. I guarantee it's going to get to you. You know. But Mama Anjaba, we want to thank you for your life, your contribution, and again, making another solid contribution to the reparations movement by having this day, you being the keynote speaker for the inaugural Social Work Reparations Day. And we want those that come after us to always honor this day and also honors the reparationists like yourself who are making these phenomenal contributions. Are there any more comments or questions from the floor?
He's muted. He's talking. Mwata?
And Watson, a social worker, but my dear good friend from the uh, the nation of Brooklyn, the
Okay.
Republic of Brooklyn.
He was
And
talking, but he
Watson,
was muted.
okay, where is he? And Watson, you have to take
Got it.
yourself off mute.
Okay, I got it. This technology. I try to use AI, meaning ancestral intelligence, but sometimes it clashes with the other intelligence, you know. Uh, I wanted to thank you, Mama Ajua, for sharing this part of your story, which is our story also,
Mhm.
and the recognition that we move forward with legitimizing our stories and carrying them forward. So I wanted to thank you. One of the questions that I have is more forward thinking. I consider our quest for reparations on the transatlantic side a very valuable lesson. But we have another Ma'afa on the eastern side of Mother Africa that is way behind where we are now in terms of our recognition and development and asserting stuff. And the question is generally like, how much do you think our brothers and sisters, which came through the Arab Muslim, I call it Arab Muslim invasion and slave wars for 1,300 years, longer than the transatlantic side. How do you think that picture of reparations on that side may look, in the future, or should look in the future, so that those millions of brothers and sisters who are on that side of the of Mother Africa can take lessons from us on the other side of Mother Africa in terms of reparations for them?
I think that we can't define that for them. I think people, we're defining and define our own movement for reparations. And I think those who are on the eastern side can look at our movement, talk with people in our movement, get any ideas they want from our movement, but they have to actually define how they're going to do the movement for reparations. One of the things I learned, I was in with the National Conference of Black Lawyers. We were in England, and I didn't go, but some of our members took a side trip to Ireland. And then they brought back the information that people were saying that our movement in the United States against, racism and segregation and all the civil rights movement had actually inspired many movements around the world.
Wow.
And so we can't underestimate the inspiration that comes from struggle. But those who are inspired have to then take that inspiration, to me, and develop it. I don't think that's pretty much how I feel about your responding to your answer. It's great. We'd be more than happy to talk. I know many of us would be more than happy to talk with people in that slavery channel or whatever. I'm not sure how to say it. Because all of it deserves reparations. But, I would think I would say they need to come and talk with us, because last word, I think, and you all know me by now. I don't want not know me by now, but I think we have to be careful that we don't against arrogance. I can tell you how you can do, and I'm not saying that's how you were saying it. Don't get me wrong, but I think that that's what we have to be careful. So we can respond to a request. I don't think we initiate the request. Thank you.
So, on behalf of the Cobras Health Commission and the co-chair, Dr. Fatima Hafiz is here, and Dr. Nikki Jones had to attend a funeral today. But in her absence, she would want to thank you as well. Her website is, I'll put it in the chat again, is Social Workers for Reparations. And it's not a membership organization yet, but I've asked her to think about it because we need to congregate, right? But I also want to remind some and inform others, the National Association of Black Social Workers has the position. Don't have to have associate's degree in social work. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree in social work. You don't even have to have a master's degree in social work. If you are doing constructive work in the community, you can be a member. And I know this all too well because before I decided to go back to school to get a social work degree, I became a member of the New York chapter. Why? Because their position is about liberation. It's not about titles, it's not about education. If you're doing the work, it's about the work. The work will define us, not the theories. The work that we do in the community. So there are many people. One of my criticisms of the National Association of Black Social Workers is that the organization can double itself overnight. Every one person just go and get another person that's doing work. The organization can double itself overnight. I've been saying this for the last 10 years, maybe longer than that, but it seems like it's falling on deaf ears. So we do have to be constructively, critical of that which we're not doing. And part of our movement has been not so much dependent upon Europeans to heal us, or we need to do the work that's within our ability to do. And of course, we can talk about Elijah Muhammad, in terms of do for self. So part of our work is the healing work. So I'd like to invite everyone to Incobra's Year to Heal. I'll put our email in the chat, and we've gone through 4 of the 5 areas that Mama Adjoa had brought up, right? Peoplehood and nationhood, education, poverty, criminal justice. And now we're going to finish it with health. So we took a somewhat of a hiatus, unplanned, because the last harm area that we did was back in December, actually. But things takes time, and we probably needed some rest in addition to that. But I also want to say to those that we just finished coming back from Washington, D.C. at the second National Reparations Leadership Assembly that Mama Adjoa is a co-founder of as well. So she talks about the we part. Yeah, it's about the we part, but if individuals aren't doing what they can do, the we won't mean much. But she is again showing us how to build a movement by her dedication and her actions. And we'd like to extend the invitation to all of you to join an organization if you're not. Bring reparations to your organizations if it's not part of your agenda, and certainly continue to stay informed, and stay involved. I'll put the COBRA's email in to get information, because we haven't come up with the dates, but of course it's already April, right? So it'll be sometime in April that we'll do that. But also we'd like to invite you to COBRA's National Convention. Where's my calendar? It's
June
June
25th to the
June
20th,
25th.
to that Sunday. That's the 29th.
Okay, so that's coming up as well. So I'm going to also remind you that this isn't just the day we're declaring this day, but the day is really the initiation of the campaign. The campaign is from March the 28th to June the 12th. And as I mentioned earlier, because we wanted to honor our ancestor, Leonard Dunstan, and that's the last time I think that he did a public engagement. So we want to take that and move forward with that. So I should be in a place to play some music. Any final words, Mama Adjoa?
No, thank you so very much. I really appreciate being asked, and I appreciated the discussion. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to put in the chat the email for the COBRA's Health Commission, and invite everyone to, if you haven't put your name and email in the chat, please do that, so we can send you our information as I type over. So my N is not working on my keyboard, so I have to go borrow it from someplace else. So it's something when you never realize how much you need something to don't have it. National COVID. I guess it's still go in there. So again, thank everyone. Let me pull up some nice music so people. I'm not asking people to rush to go away, but if you, and I think I'm going to do Curtis Mayfield.
Yay.
Move on up. And so I have to share. Put on share sound.
One tiny flaw ruins most grounding shoes, but grounded footwear fixed it. You see, most grounding shoes use a single
Hush now, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complications. So hush now, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Move on up and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing. Take nothing less than the supreme best. Do not obey rumors people say, but you can pass the test. Just move on up to a greater day. With just a little faith, if you put your mind to it, you can surely do it. Just move on up. Move on up. We move on up. Watch out, but just move on up. We move on up. Move on up.
Everyone, we want to thank you so much for spending this day with us. You can certainly count yourself as history makers because this has never been done before. Unequivocally declaring this day the inaugural Social Work Reparations Day. And it's so because you're here. If you weren't here, it would be us talking to the wind. It's only because you're here that this is an actuality. And we'd like you to tell your friends, your family, your church, your mosque about it. We'll be sending you out um, a copy of the recording and want to remind you that we also are asking you to watch the two anchors of the campaign, and that is the reparations, reparatory justice panel that Dr. Jones uh, orchestrated, managed back in 2004, March 28th. And the closing is the June 12th panel, myself, Barbara Leonard Dunstan, as well as Melissa Haley, former president of the National Association of Black Social Workers. So those are two anchor dates and activities that we are orchestrating or we are organized upon and ask that you watch that. So we'll send you all of those clips, but also on the website that I had put in the chat, if you hadn't saved it already, on the website of the Social Workers for Reparations, at least one of those, the one that she did is on there, but I'll make sure that you have access to the other one as well. It's my hope to actually have my book out by the end of the campaign. Of course, I wanted to be out today, but that wasn't happening. There's too much stuff going on. So I can include this in the book as well. But again, I want to thank everyone for your attendance, making this a reality. Let's move on up. Reparations now. Everyone take care and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.